Hey y'all, this is Mark G Abolitionist on the air with you at KEXU 96.1 FM LP, Revolution Radio, where we explore the connection between imperial conquest and incarceration. I don't limit myself to being a prison abolitionist because there are more structures and institutions that I seek to abolish than just incarceration. For example, white supremacy and racism, two different things. Male supremacy and patriarchy, two different things. Class supremacy and wage oppression, two different things. And imperial war. Yes, imperial war is an institution of the American empire. Let me be very clear. The United States military is an institution of the empire, as we all know. However, it serves the institution of imperial war. The need for imperial conquest shapes and defines the U.S. military. In fact, the European settler need and desire for conquest of indigenous lands made the creation of a military necessary. All who resisted or opposed were killed or imprisoned. The first reservations were in fact prisons. I'm going to talk about Vietnam. Y'all make sure you also hear Afghanistan, Iraq, Palestine, and any and every inner city in America. He was a 9 or 10-year-old boy begging for food on the side of the road like hundreds of others. I was riding shotgun in a truck. I was the one with the gun. The driver crushed his skull with a can of sea rations. A child begging on the side of the road is murdered with the very food he was in desperate need of having. This experience has shaped me. I think about that little boy every day. The experience has shaped me, has guided me in my struggles and in my dealings with the United States Empire. Last week, we began the discussion about class supremacy and wage oppression. I'm going to continue that discussion some today. We don't get into much detail each time because I have a 15-minute time slot here, but we're going to catch it for about 10 minutes. Class supremacy, the hierarchical way in which people are organized in order to have the society function, to produce things and consume things. We're divided into those who rule and those who are ruled. Those who make the laws and the decisions and those who do the work. The ruling class is graduated. There are different strata, there are different levels, there are different degrees of participation. The working class is also strated. There are different levels. There are poor people and there are very affluent people. Middle class people are termed such to obscure the nature of the class society that we live in. Middle class is determined by being in the middle, yet we deny a working class or a ruling class. After all, the American empire has a bourgeois democratic form of government, democracy. Therefore, we are an equal society. But one need only look at society and see that we are not an equal society. and that in fact, the inequality in our society is growing and increasing, dividing us more and more all the time. There's a current struggle going on for people to make $15 an hour. People that work in the so-called fast food industry. $15 an hour. We know that's absolutely impossible to live on here in the San Francisco Bay Area, in California. But $15 an hour won't really care for you and support you anywhere in this country. The national minimum wage is $7 and some change. And we cannot work our way into the ruling class. It doesn't happen. I'm going to talk a little bit about New York City. I'm just using New York City as an example. But what I'm going to say about New York City applies all across this country, everywhere. The amounts are going to be specific to New York City. But per capita is pretty much the same everywhere. Last year, the last fiscal, New York City, according to census, has 80,000 houseless people. New York City spent $4 billion with a B, $4 billion dealing with the so-called issue of houselessness. Of course, they call it homelessness. We prefer to call it houselessness because these are people without houses. They make homes wherever they are. $80,000 houseless people, $4 billion spent. That works out to $50,000 for each houseless person in New York City. That would mean the mother with 2 children would get $150,000. Yes, $50,000 a person, not a family, a person. A family of 4 would get $200,000. An individual, $50,000. This is more than enough money for people to thrive on. People can grow strong with that kind of income. Yet, the money is not used to help people who need it. The money is used to continue a system of exploitation and degradation, to continue a system that drives people down, grinds people up, forcing them to live outdoors in a city. This is a form of class oppression. Right now here in Oakland, California, a large houseless people's encampment called the Woods on Wood Street in West Oakland is under attack, and the people are being moved out. This is a very large area. It covers many city blocks. People have organized, people have developed a community, People are struggling for resources and trying to put pressure on government officials, our so-called leaders, to enact laws and carry out policies that could help benefit people who have been forced out of their homes. Many forced out of their homes by real estate speculation, by real estate inflation. Profits go up, people's abilities to house themselves and survive go down. We see these things all across our land. We need to figure out ways to address the root causes of houselessness. The root causes are not drugs or drug related. The root causes are not mental illness and mental instability. Though these are the most common things that are talked about. Most common reasons given for why people find themselves living on the streets, in tents, in makeshift shelters, in their vehicles. It is through organizing and putting pressure and through education that we can begin to address the root causes. The root causes isn't even poverty, though poverty is an integral part of the process. The issue becomes, why are there people in poverty? And this gets us to wage oppression. The amount of money that workers can receive for the work they put in, either for a company, a corporation, a little store. Our wages are never enough to enable us to develop and grow. They are just enough to maintain us, to keep us moving along. Now we look to America and we see the huge middle class. And we say that's a success and that you can work your way up through the class structure. You can improve, you can better yourself. But the money that the wealth of this country has is extracted from other countries in the world, from other peoples. That's the function of the military. The conquest of lands and people, the subjugations of lands and peoples, the subjugation of people's work, the expropriation of the value of that work, the expropriation of the things that that work creates. These are the things that go in to creating conditions where profits are seen as more important than people, and that the ever-increasing cost, driven by not wage laborers' wages, but driven by the greed of those who own and their desire to have more and more profits. We talk about it as what the market will bear. The market is being laid bare. If we look around and we ask the question, why are there so many houseless people? There are so many houseless people because it's not profitable to build housing for people. It's profitable to build luxury housing, huge places for small families. Expropriation of land, expropriation of resources, and the ever continuing spiral upward of costs. As costs climb and people's wages stay the same, people actually begin to have less and less wealth, less and less ability to handle any of the fluctuations or shocks that come about in life. And it's through this process that there is ever steady pressure on people from the top, pushing people down, pushing people lower and lower and lower in the economic strata of our class society. Excuse me. This has been Mark G Abolitionist on the air with you at KEXU 96.1 FM LP Revolution Radio. We're getting ready to sign out. As always, remember, we are the ones we're waiting for. Dare to struggle. Dare to win. Please join with me, the Prisoners of Conscience Committee, all of us are men, formerly incarcerated and convicted peoples and families movement, and we say, what's the call? Free them all. Dare to struggle. Dare to win. All power to the people. Ashe. Thank you. Hey, do you have time to read? Or you read? Do you read? Do you have time to read?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you read shit?
Yeah, I'm reading Malcolm Gladwell right